a city that outlived emperors, a prophecy carried across centuries, and a young ruler who believed history was waiting for him, and only him. When Mehmed II, barely 21, stood before Constantinople, the world thought he was reckless, even foolish. But Mehmed didn't see walls, he saw destiny. Because the moment those gates fell, civilizations shifted, empires changed, the world turned a new page. Like, subscribe, and comment below, where are you watching from? Mehmed did not grow up like ordinary princes. Where others played with swords, he played with maps. Where others listened to songs, he listened to legends, stories about the one city no army could ever break. Constantinople, the jewel of empires, the dream of conquerors, the last beating heart of Rome. Every great ruler before him had tried and failed. To most people, that meant impossible. To Mehmed, it meant a door no one had yet unlocked. He studied languages, philosophy, history, and military theory. He learned how walls were built, why sieges collapsed, where armies failed. He watched his father rule, observed diplomats, warriors, engineers. Slowly, silently, he began preparing his mind. Because Mehmed knew something most rulers forget: swords break. But knowledge cuts deeper. Advisors warned him not to dream too big. European spies mocked him. Even some Ottoman commanders doubted the young prince. Yet inside, Mehmed burned a single conviction. History does not wait. It moves for those who push it. He strengthened the army, he modernized the navy. He built alliances where needed, and pressure where necessary. Not for vanity, for legacy. Because he understood that if Constantinople fell, the world would never be the same again. And so, step by step, a dream became a plan. A plan became a strategy. And a strategy became destiny marching toward the horizon. The road to Constantinople did not begin with shouting and war banners. It began with preparation. Supplies moved quietly. Timber, iron, stone, food, engineers, all slowly gathered around the future battlefield. And then came the cannons. Enormous bronze giants, so large that teams of oxen strained beneath their weight. When they fired, the earth shivered and birds scattered from the sky. Europe laughed at first. They will break before the walls do. But Mehmed wasn't simply relying on firepower. He relied on calculation. He built fortresses along the Bosporus, tightening control of trade routes. He cut supplies reaching Constantinople. He positioned fleets, watched wind currents, measured distances, prepared contingencies. Strategy wrapped the city long before soldiers did. Inside Constantinople, hope rested in the legendary walls. Walls that had defied armies for centuries. Priests prayed, leaders argued. Citizens whispered, surely the city cannot fall. But one night changed everything. Mehmed's navy appeared, silent and ominous, shadows on water. Sails cutting moonlight, engines of empire drifting toward destiny. The defenders realized the truth. The storm had finally arrived, and it was unlike anything they had ever faced. At dawn, the sky glowed like burning copper. Then the cannons thundered, stones shattered. Dust rose. Tremors rolled through the ground like thunder beneath the earth. Inside the city, fear spread like smoke. Outside the walls, discipline hardened. Soldiers rotated in precise shifts, resting, regrouping, returning. Endless pressure, never letting the defenders breathe. Every day felt the same. Fire, repair, attack, resist. Giustiniani, the fearless Genoese commander, inspired the defenders, fighting on the front lines, refusing to yield. But Mehmed studied every explosion. He adjusted angles, distances, positions, like a chess master moving pieces toward checkmate. Yet one obstacle remained, the great chain across the Golden Horn, blocking the harbor. No ships could pass, most generals would have given up. Mehmed thought differently. He ordered forests cleared, logs laid, tracks greased with oil, and then, in a sight that stunned the world, ships began sliding across land like dark shadows dragged by giants. At sunrise, they appeared inside the harbor. The defenders stared in disbelief. Hope cracked, the balance had shifted, and Mehmed tightened the grip. By late May, the city burned, yet stood. So Mehmed prepared for the final blow. He organized layered assault waves, irregulars first, then trained infantry, then the janissaries, the sharpest blade of the empire. Soldiers prayed, steel shined under torchlight. Officers reviewed plans again and again. Across the walls, Emperor Constantine refused to abandon his people. He moved through the streets, blessing soldiers, standing beside citizens, carrying the weight of a dying empire. Night fell, a strange calm covered everything. Then Oz drums. Slow, deep, relentless. The attack exploded. Ladders crashed against walls. Arrows hissed. Stones and burning oil poured down. Men fought not for victory anymore, but for existence. Mehmed did not expect the first waves to succeed. He meant them to wear down strength, break rhythm, exhaust defenders. And slowly, it worked. Gaps widened. Defenders grew tired. Fire swallowed the sky. As darkness lifted toward dawn, both leaders, Mehmed and Constantine, realized the moment had arrived. History was no longer waiting, it was choosing. With sunrise came silence, and then the marching of janissaries. They advanced like a single moving wall, shields up, eyes forward, discipline unbroken. At that critical moment, Giustiniani was struck and carried off the walls. Panic rippled through defenders like lightning. Hesitation, fear, retreat. Mehmed saw it instantly. He signaled the final push. Ottoman banners climbed ruined towers. Streets flooded with fighting. Bells rang wildly while families ran through alleys, clutching children and icons. Emperor Constantine fought until he disappeared into the chaos. A ruler, without a grave, swallowed by the last battle for his city. Soon the gates opened. For the first time in 1,000 years, Constantinople belonged to another empire. Mehmed entered quietly without boasting. He rode to Hagia Sophia, stepped beneath the enormous dome, and stood in silence. The Roman world was gone. A new age had begun. He was now Sultan of two lands. Sultan of two seas, the Conqueror. But conquering was only the first chapter. Ruling the world that followed would be far harder. Many conquerors destroy, Mehmed rebuilt. He restored water systems, reopened markets, repaired bridges, constructed mosques, libraries, schools, and hospitals. He welcomed Muslims, Christians, and Jews, turning a ruined city into a living capital. Istanbul began to breathe again. Trade revived, caravans returned. Scholars traveled from distant lands to join his court. Mehmed collected books, debated philosophers, encouraged science, astronomy, architecture, and art. But he ruled firmly. Rebellions, crushed plots, silenced because he believed stability was mercy and chaos a poison. Beyond the capital, he continued expanding, pushing into the Balkans, challenging Venice and Hungary, securing coasts and seas. Not for greed, but to prove Constantinople was not an accident. It was destiny, fulfilled with discipline. Yet leadership weighed heavily on him. He slept little, worked endlessly, and feared only one thing: stagnation. Because empires die when their rulers grow comfortable. So Mehmed kept building, planning, dreaming bigger. By the end of his reign in 1481, the Ottomans had transformed into a world empire, stretching across continents, commanding seas, shaping politics and culture far beyond their borders. Some remembered him as a hero, others as an unstoppable storm. But none forgot his name. Empires may fade from maps, but legends endure.